Wednesday, January 8th, 2025, and a lot of things are going on in the world. And we'll be talking about those things and seeing what folks have to say about a number of these things that are taking place in the world and all along those lines. We'll see which of our regular panelists decide to join us on this particular Wednesday afternoon. That's right, it is Wednesday afternoon, the 8th, so the second Wednesday in 2025, and a lot of things are already taking place in the world as always. In Tibet, earthquake survivors face freezing weather conditions. And it's definitely even been a little chilly here in North Carolina where I'm at and all along those lines. So definitely there is some cold weather taking place and a lot of folks are paying attention to a number of things in that regards. And Iran releases an Italian journalist, Cecilia Sala. So an Italian journalist is freed from detention in Iran and is returning home. So that is something that the Italian Prime Minister's office let folks know about as well. So definitely we'll see how that goes on and all in that space. And Elon Musk disinformation is endangering this particular individual, is what Jess Phillips says, and that was reported by the BBC. So definitely, it looks like a handful of X accounts took Elon Musk down the rabbit hole on UK politics, and some folks are asking, what is the UK grooming gang scandal, and all along those lines. And apparently, that was seized on in conversations by Elon Musk. And British minister says Musk knows absolutely nothing about the child rape scandals. So that is something that is going on as well. And the first international commercial flight since Assad's ouster lands in Syria. So Syria's main airport handles its first international flights since the fall of the Assad regime. So it looks like party time at Damascus Airport as international flights resume. So looks like we'll see people heading back to that part of the world that had not been getting the chance to get there because of the change in government. But we'll see how this all plays out as well. And France warns Donald Trump against Greenland threats. So Greenland, Panama, and faucets. Trump conference shows hints of chaos to come. So don't panic about Trump's refusal to rule out a Greenland invasion, Denmark says. So definitely we're seeing a lot of things that are going on, including the fact that apparently there's some countries that Trump is interested in obtaining and all along those lines. Trump is saying he will rename the Gulf of Mexico, and some folks are wondering, can he do that? So President-elect Trump said he plans to rename the Gulf of Mexico, and we'll definitely see how that goes. Matter of fact, Marjorie Taylor Greene has swiftly served up a bill to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. So definitely looks like there's a lot of things that are going on in what Trump might be wanting to do in this new wake of all of his second term. So we'll see how this all plays out. Lebanon seeks to elect its first president since 2022 in the wake of the war. So with Hezbollah weakened, Lebanon is to hold a presidential vote. And the U.S. dangles Saudi Arabia's cash to push candidate for Lebanon's presidency. So definitely it looks like they might be getting a new ruler in that part of the world as well. So we'll see how this all plays out and what goes on in that space. South Korea's Yoon faces new arrest attempt in a fortified compound. So bodyguards are keeping South Korea's President Yoon from a detention, and stop the steal in South Korea is what's being reported on CNN, and why MAGA-like hats and slogans are part of President Yoon's impeachment drama. So definitely we'll see how this all goes as well. And in Australia, a hiker was found alive after surviving for 2 weeks on berries and 2 muesli bars. So police marvel at the great condition of a hiker found after being lost in the mountains for 2 weeks. And Ukraine says it has attacked fuel depots serving Russian strategic bomber airbase. So Ukraine strikes oil depot near the Russian airbase, according to what the Ukrainian military is saying. So Ukraine claims it struck a key military fuel depot deep inside of the Russian borders and all along those lines. So that war is still continuing as well. And Trump envoy will join Gaza talks in an effort to reach a deal by inauguration. So Trump says all hell will break out if no hostage deal by inauguration. So that is something else that we're seeing in the news as well. So definitely that's some of the things that I'm seeing in the news, including Jean-Marie Le Pen, the founder of France's far-right National Front Party, passed away at the age of 96. So in death, Jean-Marie Le Pen of France is embraced by a far-right party he once led. So definitely there's a lot of political turmoil in that part of the world as well. Let's see what's going on in the U.S. And then I think I did hear a couple of clicks coming in, so that means that there might be some of my fellow panelists, because I know I didn't invite any guests this particular time around, that might have some thoughts about a number of these things taking place. Fires tear through the Pacific Palisades, Altadena, Pasadena, and Sylmar. Gusts of up to 99 miles per hour were reported. So it definitely looks like there's some serious winds going on there, including the folks that are tracking where the fires in California are burning. So despite the winds, there's definitely some fires that are going in that area and all along those lines. So definitely, I know in the past there have been some severe California wildfires, and it looks like they might be having other ones as well. And Trump has asked the Supreme Court to halt his sentencing in the New York hush money case. So Trump files an emergency petition to the Supreme Court to prevent sentencing in New York versus Trump. So we'll see if the Supreme Court steps in and intervenes and how that all goes. The New York Assembly Speaker says, I assume raising the revenue will absolutely be on the table this legislative season, and climate mandates and the cost of living are topping New York lawmakers' priorities as their session begins. And it's probably topping a lot of the priorities of a lot of folks in various legislative spaces. And Panama Canal will stay in our hands, minister tells Trump. So, like I said, definitely it looks like a lot of folks are paying attention to that, including the EU, dodging the questions on Trump's mooted invasion of Greenland. So definitely a lot of folks are talking about the weather for sure, because it looks like we might be having some more wintry like weather even here in this area as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. And Border State Democrat Ruben Gallego backs GOP's Laken Riley Act ahead of the Senate vote. So the GOP-led immigration legislation passes the House in the first bill of new Congress, but faces an uncertain future in the Senate. So immigration has definitely been a popular conversation and all along those lines. And folks are saying that former President Jimmy Carter spent his last 43 years living in a 167,000 house, less expensive than the Secret Service vehicles outside. So a lot of folks are paying attention as his funeral is taking place and all along those lines. And Jimmy Carter's woodworking, painting, and poetry reveal an introspective Renaissance man. So definitely there'll be a number of things. I think tomorrow is the day of the National Day of Mourning for Jimmy Carter. So we'll see which offices might be opened as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out and what goes on in that space. And the man who exploded the Cybertruck in Las Vegas used ChatGPT in his planning, according to the police. So that's what folks are saying. They're saying that artificial intelligence was used in the Tesla Cybertruck explosion, and the Cybertruck driver's ex-girlfriend apparently detailed his life before that particular blast and all along those lines. So like I said, get ready to bring in some folks. By the way, it looks like Democrats prevailed in Virginia races, the first election since Trump's win. So Virginia Democrats made a narrow legislative majority after a special election wins. So definitely that's going on just north of us here in North Carolina, in the fine state of Virginia, and all along those lines. So I do have Rick Rosner with me. I don't think anybody else is here and everything. But Rick, what do you think about this idea of we're not going to call it the Gulf of Mexico anymore? We're going to call it the Gulf of America. So
it's stupid. It's just straight up stupid. But we should talk about the Los Angeles fires.
Please.
Which it's bad here right now. Half the sky is filled with smoke. It smells like smoke. Maybe 5 square miles of the Palisades, which is Malibu and Santa Monica, have burned. If we're lucky, most of those 5 miles will be, scrub and trees and not places with homes. But I'm sure that dozens and possibly hundreds of homes have burned or will have burned by the time we're done with this. Another square mile has burned in Altadena, which is close to Pasadena. There's a Sylmar fire that's probably burned, half a square mile. It's, the damage is going to be in the hundreds of millions, maybe the billions. And, people are looking to point fingers at our Governor Newsom.
Mm-hmm.
okay, so the one little teeny silver lining is Biden is still president. We've had fires before where we had to eat a lot of crap from Trump before he would give us FEMA aid. And at least Biden is still president. He's already said that FEMA aid will be coming. So, anyway, there you go.
These kind of fires are probably the most dangerous for the fire department to deal with. They're widow makers. No matter how you look at it, they're going to kill hopefully not that many people, but it's spread fast. It's horrendous. I've been watching the post of people having to leave home, pack their things, and the first things out of their mouths are, thank God for the firemen that are sacrificing their time and lives. A lot of people don't know that the firemen, that when they go out there, they work nonstop. They get sleep, maybe very little food. They eat fast and they're right back out there. There is no rest for them. And
there's no support because the winds are high enough that you can't drop you can't fly the planes. The fire stopping junk on the fire.
Well, the planes probably won't do any good because they have to fly so high. You're not hitting the core of the fire. And I mean, and the other question is how do you prevent fires like this from spreading real bad, right? And like yesterday as well, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? We had 2 big fires in downtown Raleigh that burned down some prominent buildings. Gone. And what can be done to help in the forest?
What stops fires in Southern California are freeways.
Right.
But with 80-mile-per-hour winds, the fires are crossing the freeways.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to think about the course of that. I mean, and you can't just build freeways all the time. I mean, it's just, I mean, I don't think, because then you kind of get rid of the forest anyway. But I mean, it's sad. Hopefully they get the elements of the nature that they need to stop it. We have to pray for that as well.
So we had a wet year last year, and a lot of people are saying that a lot of foliage grew, and that is feeding the current fires. I also read that 85% of fires have a human origin. We've got a ton of homeless here. Homeless people will start fires to keep warm or cook their food. We have crazy people here. We have idiots setting off fireworks. I don't think it was I don't know who would set off fireworks in 80-mile-per-hour winds. It could be people throwing. All this stuff has caused fires in LA in the past. People throwing cigarettes out of a car.
Cigarettes are a big problem. I wish that we would ban them, and vaping. But I can't count the times that cigarettes have been known to be the cause of deadly fires. Fatal ending stories like what happened here many, many years ago in a frat house. They all said it was because the students were drunk that they died, but the fire started because cigarettes in the trash can. So, I mean, 6 one way, half a dozen the other. But I believe that if you didn't allow smoking, then that fire would have never started.
We've been fighting smoking now for, 60, 70 years, and it's way down. It's like, compared to the 60s when, 3/4 of American adults smoked.
Right. But people are vaping instead of smoking. And vaping now, they're finding out, is causing black lung, which is just as dangerous in a short period of time, because people think, well, I'm not smoking a cigarette. So they vape like every second all day long. I mean, I see people who can't take a breath without vaping.
At least vaping doesn't set stuff on fire.
No, it does not. It just kills a lot of people. But, that's their choice. That's their choice. Cigarettes, I can't count the times I go to an intersection, like if I'm walking, and I see a pile of cigarettes on the corner, especially here in the South. It's just stupid. People think they could just flick that cigarette out and the world evolves around them. I have no respect anymore for people who smoke cigarettes because they just have no respect for society anymore.
Well, I mean, as I've said a couple of times on this show before, it's not just cigarettes. Because even during the pandemic, I saw because I thought it was another example of a way to spread germs. A number of those masks that were laying on the ground because people
Yeah.
don't know how to put them
Yeah.
in trash cans and
Ick.
things like that. And so there was a number of those that were laying on grounds. And like I said, there was no telling what germs were in those masks and what else was being done in that space. But I did have a question politically and everything. And this actually comes to you, Kim, and then I've got one for Sasha as well. But it does seem like if you have a supermajority, a lot of times you're able to do what you want. And the GOP-led North Carolina Supreme Court is blocking finalizing the election for the Democratic justices. So they're the North Carolina Supreme Court ordered the election board not to certify the Riggs-Griffin court race. And I know that was a very tight race. I think it was less than 100 votes or something like that. And the federal judges are now sending the Republican challenge of 60,000 ballots back to the North Carolina Supreme Court. They did that 2 days ago. And then I think that they had actually said that the Democratic candidate won, but now they're blocking the certification.
Right. Well, with politics, I discovered something really surprising late last night. Like a lot of MAGAs on Twitter were, saying, well, not a lot, but some real jerks were saying, that it's Sodom and Gomorrah in California, and that's why it burned. And
No.
but I looked it up, and the big three Trump states where more than 6 million people voted for Trump are Texas, Florida, and California. And the four states that had more than a 9% shift towards Republicans between 2020 and 2024 are Massachusetts, New York, Florida, and California. So when you say, you burn California, land of libs, it's not. There are a ton of Trump supporters.
Anyone who says that, I'm going to red flag them, and they're just not going to be part of my life. I'll just be very concerned about who they are, because you just don't do that. There are millions of innocent people.
It's a small minority.
Right,
It's a small majority and
that
everything.
to our society, and millions of people who are very valuable, that just are part of the community, and do just sit there and go, oh no, you know what? That's just not how it is. We need to learn to help each other, not divide.
Not divide and everything, but just really quickly, because I can see that Steve's here, and I know he's probably
Hi,
got
Steve.
some thoughts.
I'm going to have to check out because I'm
Yeah.
taking my roommates to the airport this morning. But I just want to wish everyone well.
Just so you know, Kimberly, we have noticed that you have a new hairdo. So happy New Year! I hope you had a great festive season.
Thank you. I'm having fun. I went to New York and had a lot of fun. So, but I'm getting ready to head to California. I'm fortunately not going to be down in the fire sector, but I will check on some friends who live down that way. But everyone have a safe and happy week, and stay out of that cold. It's 20 degrees here.
It's definitely cold here and
You
everything.
can come to Australia. It's our summer right now, and it's really hot. So come
I'm
on over.
going to 60 degrees right now. I can't wait. So take care,
summer.
everyone.
Yeah,
I miss
summer over
summer.
there and everything. Just really quickly, Steve, because I know that you've been a popular proponent of AI and everything like that, but they are saying that the Green Beret who exploded the cyber truck might have actually been using ChatGPT. So I don't know if we're going to see more people using chat in order to plan attacks and all along those lines.
I think ChatGPT, I think AI, there's rules you can write in the software. If I went into ChatGPT right now and said, can you give me directions on how to develop a nuclear device or something, it would say, cannot answer this. So I think, at least human beings can control these tools. And I think there needs to be more regulation at the federal level and the state level for how AI could be used, the security, the privacy, the data, but also ethics and response. I'm going to try to work on getting better about bringing guests on. And I'm hoping to get back, guys, to folks where I can be on for an hour, but it's really hard. And I do still have to work and running. I forgot to go to Shaquille Almira, announce my candidacy for the Wake County Commission, the at-large seat for the county. So I'm going to have to talk to you offline about helping me behind the scenes with any networks you have. But I'm putting my campaign together, and it's going to be taking a lot of time. So it's going to be a crowded race. I heard I have a great chance. Poll numbers look good, but the problem with the primary is the left. There's a lot of left Democrats that will be coming after me.
You remain the only Democrat so far that I have assisted in any way, and I'm happy to assist.
But I could lose a primary because of that. I mean, I'm not left enough. But that's okay. My thing is, I've lost the fear. I think it's a great run for me, and if not, I'll become like Bakari Sellers. And what makes me different is I have a whole career now in media I can fall back on. So I'm swinging.
Politics is an interesting game, but look, as I've said to you many times, I'll say again on air. I'm actually not that political. Mark Lee and Sasha Starr might disagree with you, but I'm actually not that political. I just want the best for everybody. I want our society to move forward. And there are certain people that I think are very committed to doing that outside of political things. And you're one of those people. I think that you are prepared to put politics aside in order to help the everyday person move forward.
That's what
You'll
I'm
be very
hoping
pleased to know, Steve. One of the reasons I came on today, because I am still in holiday mode, is I had a very interesting conversation yesterday with somebody who I was talking to Fujitsu about GPT and private GPTs and private AI and things like that. What they have to offer is a little bit too institutional for what I need. So I was having a chat to a couple of others, and one of the people said, "Hey, look, we're having a conference. If you're free, you should come to the United States." I said, "Look, I'm quite overdue to come to the United States. Where are you going to be?" And I said, "Oh, look, I'm not sure if you've heard of this place, but it's Research Triangle in North Carolina." I said, "Yeah, I have heard of that place. There's a few people over there that I know. So you may well see me over there for a conference in the coming months." I think what's happening in North Carolina is fantastic, and I think there's a real future with AI, with GPT, with computer technology, it's just a great coincidence that's happening right there in Research Triangle.
Hey, Shaquille, just really quickly, because I had brought it up earlier, and I'm not familiar with all foods from all worlds, and I probably shouldn't know and everything, but there was this Australian hiker that was found alive and survived for 2 weeks, apparently living off of berries, because I'm always one that's amazed when people are able to find different ways to survive, but he survived on berries and something called muesli bars, and I have no idea what a muesli bar is. I probably should know what a muesli bar is, but I don't know. So since you're in Australia, can you please tell me what a muesli bar is?
No, you get muesli bars over there. I think they're called something different. It's just like a bar of like honey and different seeds and stuff. So you actually get them in America. Sorry, Rick.
It's like Nature Valley. I call them disappointment bars.
Yeah, so something along those lines. But I actually didn't even know about this story until today when the guy was found. I actually didn't even know the guy was missing. So either there wasn't lots of news coverage, or I was too busy celebrating my birthday, Christmas, New Year's, and everything else. And I had family that had come over and things like that. So and plus I went overseas for a little bit. So I just missed the story.
But I got another question for both you and Sasha, because you are world travelers, and we oftentimes complain about what the U.S. is doing good and what is not doing good. And apparently, the U.S. has dropped to number 9 in the world's most powerful passport index. I'm not sure who number 1 is, but apparently China has risen and everything. But
Japan will be number 1.
Okay, so how important is it for us to have a powerful passport in 2025? And should we be concerned that we've dropped to number 9? That's my question for everybody on the panel, because apparently Kazakhstan leads Central Asia in the global passport power rankings right now, by the way. It's Kazakhstan that actually leads.
I think it's very subjective, and it varies from country to country. And I don't think it gives us any useful data at all.
So I'm British and Australian.
Right.
If I go to China on my British passport, the visa is more expensive than if I go on my Australian passport. If I enter the United States, I can enter under the visa waiver program. Canada, I can enter basically under a similar scheme. With Europe, generally speaking, my British passport's going to be more helpful. Of course, that's not as good as it was before Brexit. But there are many countries I travel to, especially in Africa and Eastern Europe, where actually I'd be better off getting a passport from my family's country, Fiji, and I am actually entitled to OCI as Steve probably is as well for India. Certainly something that I would consider, and that opens up even more countries. So, what you consider to be the most powerful and what you don't, I think that is subjective. I will say though to Sasha, just because it's a New Year, Sasha, and I've got to come out and stir you up a little bit. I do have to say, it was first thing in the morning for us here in Australia, and when we got the footage, and it was certainly a wonderful, wonderful day to see Kamala Harris certifying the electoral results, and Justin Trudeau, as I predicted, coming out of COVID after the truckers thing, finally resigned. Now, I'm not going to say that he's a failed prime minister. He's had 3 terms. It's very, very difficult to win a 4th term. You can't easily convince the electorate to give you another 3 or 4 years to do what you haven't done in the last 9 or 10. So I'm not going to say he's a failed prime minister, although I think it's no secret that I don't particularly like his leadership. But I can certainly say it was a wonderful day for me sitting over here and a lot of my friends, and we were certainly celebrating. So I do hope, Sasha, that you guys in Canada are looking forward to a bright future, and that you may actually remain your own country instead of being the 51st state of America.
Well,
We are all celebrating this.
Trudeau's gone. He's even celebrating that as well and everything. But just really quickly, because you did mention it, Shaquille, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, and I don't think I'm speaking out of school. How concerned should we be about crisis within Africa and everything? Because one of the things that I brought up in past stories, and it's even come up in some of the news briefs that I've been watching, is how the disaster, and it does have to deal with both famine and war, is going in Sudan. And I know that you've been the one that has working and trying to help certain African nations. I don't know if Sudan is one of them and everything, but how concerned should the world be about this plight in Sudan and other parts of Africa?
Well, look, I'm limited in what I can say about Africa. I'll say this. The reason that I have so much involvement in Africa is because they asked me. They said, hey, you have some very interesting ideas on taxation, on economics, on various things, on promoting our trade. Will you come over and help us? And I've done that, and I haven't been to Sudan. But I've done that, and I look forward and I'm very humbled at the idea that I can be somebody who plays a part in their future. I am, however, my loyalty lies to the Five Eyes countries. The main one of those is obviously the United States. I'm a citizen of the UK and Australia. I've lived in New Zealand, and I've got family that spend a lot of time in Canada. Those 5 countries are the most important countries to me, and I'm far more concerned with what's happening in our neck of the woods. And I'm very concerned with what's happening in the United States. I've said last year and this year, I think that Donald Trump is the best person to lead the country, given the candidates that were vying for the position. But there are some things I'm a little bit concerned about. I mean, I'm fearful that he's sort of slipping into his old ways a little bit. He's antagonizing Denmark over Greenland. He's antagonizing Canada a little bit. He's talking about tariffs in a way that it's one thing to promote US interests. It's another thing to, really upset your trading partners. And he's not just going after countries that perhaps have a poor relationship with the United States, but he's also going after allies. So there are some concerns there. Having said that, I still think that he's the best person to lead the country. So when it comes to those other countries around the world that are developing, I actually think that US strength helps them, but US strength only helps them when the United States and its allies are prepared to trade with them. And when you're talking about tariffs, when you're talking about all those sorts of things, that can have a big effect. Domestic politics within these nations, Sudan, Uganda, the DRC, many other countries in Africa, look, you've got to let them sort out their own domestic issues. But certainly from the perspective of international trade, these countries do need some of the purchasing power and some of the income that comes when Western countries trade with them. And I think that's important. And the biggest fear that I would have is that if Donald Trump in his presidency doesn't prioritize that international trade, that leaves a gaping hole for China, for Japan, who's an ally, for other nations to step in, and that diminishes our power, authority, and respect in those regions.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
I'd
sense.
like to know your opinion on the tariffs that are being proposed by Trump, even during the election campaign, but even more so now. And that could make a case for bigger inflation, and that could be impediment on the economy, stocks, and other assets. Interest rates, of course, could rise, and stock market right now is quite shaky because they can't figure out how to evaluate the threat of this upcoming tariffs. On the other hand, you may say there is a case that he is just threatening tariffs. There may not be any tariffs too. So in the meantime, it's becoming a very shaky situation. Now, concerning Greenland and Canada and Panama Canal and all other things, I think my read is that Trump is taking pages from Putin's playbook. Now, Putin's playbook is that the old Potsdam world order established in 1945 is no longer valid. It doesn't exist anymore. So therefore, Putin in his part of the world, he can do just anything what he wants to do, and no power in the world can oppose him. If you take that view, then US has even more rights to do anything similar to his part of the world, as whatever is Greenland is concerned, and Canada or others. And then he can go on, starts from Mexico, Honduras next, and then get all the way to Panama Canal and annex it. And then all Latin America, they would make a proposal that, well, you can join us, or we'll make you to join us. So this is, I really don't understand the actual mechanism, how he can proceed. But what's good about it, it doesn't cost him any money to make these announcements. He is in the news. There are people, like even on this network, who seriously discuss the possibility of that. So he get enormous mileage of spending $0 on it. So why not?
Make the world America again is perhaps his philosophy. Look, let me say in the first place, I think he's being a bit of a troll, especially with Justin Trudeau, and suggesting he should be the governor of Canada. The US is not going to use military action against Canada. And if they do, it doesn't work out very well for the United States. As much as I respect and love your country, for the other three people that are here, the last time you attacked Canada, we burnt your bloody White House down. So just, ease up. The Commonwealth is still pretty bloody strong. And you get your uranium, plutonium from us here in Australia. So, ease up. But no, I don't think that he's going to, use any military action against Canada. I think that there are some issues that he talks about with subsidies and things like that are fair enough and reasonable. He does have to understand the two-way trade is important. Having a good, close relationship with one of your neighbours is pretty important, and Canada would be the logical one to have a close relationship with. So I think that'll play out over time. It's pretty clear to me that the Liberals in Canada are going to lose this election. I don't think that there's any real way back for them at this point. How long the Conservative Party will be able to hold Canada, I don't know. Stephen Harper had the place for a while, but it's pretty rare that Conservatives run Canada. So we'll see how that plays out over time. In relation to the international things that you brought up, look, tariffs, yes, could have an inflationary effect if the tariffs are offset by tax reductions elsewhere in the US economy. Then it could be kind of a moot point. It could sort of cancel each other out. However, the United States has had a history for the last century of being the country that's most open to trade and most open to capitalism, most open to international relationships. And I think that if you are too aggressive with trading partners, that could be detrimental to the US. I totally appreciate that you want to build the conditions to create jobs in America. But if you do it in such a way that you upset everybody else in the world, then you become very isolationist, and that could be problematic. It's important that media, and when I say media in this particular circumstance, I would say right-leaning media like Fox, calls him out when he goes too far. The complaint over the last 4 years, 10 years, has been that left-wing mainstream media has been too harsh on him. It's now time for those people that are actually on his side to point out when he's doing something that could potentially be detrimental to the US. So, look, he's not perfect. I'm not going to say he's perfect, but I do still stand by that I think that he's the best person to lead the country out of the candidates that were up, whether that be Biden or Kamala Harris.
Yeah. So that was your take on that. That makes a lot of interesting sense. I was actually going to mention somebody that passed away in our political realm here in North Carolina. But before I get to that, Sasha, I think you may have talked about this yesterday, but what is your take on this last package of military aid? Because apparently Ukraine military aid.
Sorry, Mark, sorry, I don't know if you saw Steve's message. He has to go in just a moment. Sorry, Sasha.
Yeah.
Steve has to go.
Yeah, so let Sasha go. I got a few more minutes. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah, so just wanted your take on the Ukraine military aid donors that are coming. The Ukraine military aid that's coming from the U.S. Apparently, Biden administration is set to announce a substantial final weapons package for Ukraine that's supposed to last through 2027, according to what the Pentagon is saying. So, will this be enough to keep them sustaining in their war efforts, or do you think more is needed? Because they're going to announce it at the Ramstein meeting that is coming up and everything.
Well, this is the puzzle that I have trying to follow the media and to understand that, because, okay, the Biden administration is out in a few days and Trump's administration is in. So is this additional package has been negotiated between both administration, or it's Biden's last grasp of the air, and he's trying actually to do something what Trump might have been opposed to, because if he has plans for a peaceful regulation of this conflict, so additional help to Ukraine doesn't bode really well with that. Not 100%, but still. So this is very difficult really to understand whether it's being negotiated between two administrations or Biden is doing that just to upset Trump's peaceful plans. Now, another puzzle is, what are the Trump's peaceful efforts? How is it going to be implemented? Are there really Trump's real peaceful initiative? How real they are? Is he capable to implement them? That's another complete unknown territory and very difficult to estimate. So this is why, Mark, it's very difficult for me to comment one way or another. Okay, I feel like being from Ukraine that, okay, it's better to have that package than not. That's 100%. From U.S. Point of view, again, we know very little about how it's been done and what are the future Trump's plans, how he's going to implement. The Putin has not made even 1 millimeter move to de-escalate his aggression against Ukraine or to do anything in terms of possible peaceful regulation of the conflict. Nothing of that is happening. So if that's the case and Putin is adamant about continuing the war, And that's the only option that Putin has, because his economy is ruined, and he has no other choice as to preserve his leadership, and it's to continue the war as long as it's possible. How Trump is going to convince him otherwise? There is only one way to convince it to give Ukraine anything possible, whatever it needs to make Putin's position much softer, and the Putin recognizing that there is no possibility of any kind to win this war, he will have to accept terms whether proposed by Trump or in some augmented reality will take place. We don't know that, so there's a lot of unknowns in this stage.
I think Biden is doing a few things that are actively working against what he believes Trump is going to try to achieve. And look, I don't dislike Biden. I just don't think he's a very good president. Right? I actually think, and I know people that know him personally and have known him personally for a long time that tell me he's quite a warm person. I'm not questioning that. I think that his actions and his behaviour recently is not great. I think for people that think that his legacy, he's going to be remembered fondly, I doubt it. Jimmy Carter unfortunately passed away just recently. I think most people that I know on the left or the right would say that he wasn't a very effective president because of issues that largely were outside of his control, international issues in Iran and etc. Affected his presidency. However, of the former presidents that have been alive since I've been born, I think that he is undoubtedly probably the most statesman-like president that the United States has had post-presidency. I think Jimmy Carter has got a great legacy as with his actions after he was no longer the president. I don't think that Biden is going to have that sort of reputation. And again, Donald Trump might go a little bit too far, but I think as that pendulum, as we talk about with politics, swings from left to right and back to left and back to right, I think that Biden will not be remembered fondly as one of America's greatest presidents.
Well,
I think he'll probably be remembered as one of the worst.
Carter cemented his legacy in nearly 44 years as an ex-president. So for Biden to have 44 years as an ex-president, he'd have to live to, I think, 126.
Something
Yeah,
like
but
that.
even what he does in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, I don't think he'll be remembered as fondly. To be fair, Bill Clinton wasn't remembered as fondly. George H.W. Bush wasn't remembered as fondly. Ronald Reagan, was remembered reasonably fondly. But most of the presidents that have been around since I've been alive, I was born in December of '83. Most of the presidents haven't been, I think, remembered as fondly as Jimmy Carter. I think Jimmy Carter's behaviour, his actions, his promotion of the United States, his statesmanship after he was no longer the president, that's what you would hope for former presidents, regardless of their politics. So I just don't think that Biden is going to carry that sort of respect. And it's a bit like Richard Nixon, right? Nobody really cared too much about what Richard Nixon had to say. In fact, sometimes he'd go out to give public speeches and people would be not even interested in hearing him, or they'd boo him, or they wouldn't clap when he came out.
Nixon wrote 3-4 books as an ex-president that were well received because he knew a lot about international politics.
I just want to push back because I disagree that Biden won't be remembered fondly, because every president, after they leave office, they seem to receive a bump in terms of their policies and everything else that they've dealt with. I mean, we can take as recently as Donald Trump, because during his presidency, he never really had a bump. He was always seen as chaotic. Everybody was on edge and so on and so forth. But then coming to 4 years afterwards, people had fond memories of it based on how he was pushed and how the media, especially right-wing media, pushed who Donald Trump was and what Donald Trump had done. They never really talked about how Donald Trump used the National Guard to, attack, basically wanted to shoot individuals or shoot regular individuals, he used the National Guard to clear out protesters because he was afraid in his bunker of all this stuff that happened during his presidency was never part of the actual remembering of who he was. So just like every president, Biden will get a bump and he will be remembered fondly, just like even Trump got remembered fondly when he was out of office. It's just the nature of politics.
Well, look, Jamie, I don't normally recommend that somebody gets back together with their ex, but that appears to be what America did. Maybe he's lost some weight and is better looking. And look, maybe Biden will have the bump that you're describing. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think that there's.
I get that you're not sure. I'm just saying that I believe that they are. So going back and forth on opinions doesn't really matter.
Fair enough. But it's a new year, so we have to, have a little bit of conflict, especially after my open yesterday. But
I misspoke about Nixon. Nixon wrote 9 books. I'm probably all of them bestsellers after leaving the presidency.
Yeah, Nixon wrote 9 bestsellers. I just have a quick question. This is actually for Jacoby and everything, and this is actually for everybody to some degree. But and I'm trying to get it confirmed and everything. But every city, every state, every country has what can amount to being kingmakers. There are people that are influential, that are known as your go-to people that will help you get elected. I think that's kind of to some degree what Steve is hoping that you'll be able to be for him and everything, Shaquille, and all along those lines. And we had one in this area, and I just got a text that told me that one of the kingmakers, it was very much involved in the African-American community, founded one of the major African-American PACs, and all along those lines has passed away, that being Lavonia Allison, and all along those lines. I'm trying to get it confirmed, but it's from one of our political people and everything like that. So I just wanted our thoughts, Jacoby, if you've heard this, and through your thoughts around kingmakers in general, because a lot of times kingmakers are those that are kind of behind the scenes, but they help motivate. And she was known as somebody that whether it was on the Democrat, if you were.
Can I just jump in front of you, Toby, for just one moment? Just for the sake of our international audience, and especially America, when I'm coming over there shortly, I'm not a kingmaker in any sense of the word when it comes to American politics. I just happen to like Steve Rouse, so I'm prepared to give him the benefit of my opinions, but I am no kingmaker in American politics. Just to put that out there.
But you know the term, Utopian. I would say that Livonia was a kingmaker in terms of local, state, and even to some degree, national politics. Even some of our national Democrats would come and see what her opinion was. So like I said, I'm trying to get it confirmed, but if one of our past guests, Jan Cromartie, just sent me a text that said that she had passed away and everything along those lines. So, and she was in her 80s or 90s.
Yeah, I mean, kingmakers, they're right now. Are you asking my opinion on her passing because that's a sad issue, or I'm trying to get the
one her passing and also her influence on politics?
I mean, yeah, she had an influence on she was a kingmaker, so yeah, people came to her to find out to figure out where to go. Mm-hmm. That's essentially a kingmaker. Yeah. That would give you her blessing would give you the backing of a whole swath of people.
Yeah. But I think that's
Shaq
the same.
Doesn't have that. Shaq's blessing will only give you an order at McDonald's.
I didn't even Donald Trump's working, Jacoby.
What were you gonna
we get a free upgrade. We get some extra fries. Look, I think to be honest with you, all industries are like that, though, aren't they? I mean, if I wanted to really get involved in the chess world, I'm going to bring Sasha and say, hey, Sasha, how many grandmasters do you know? What can we do? If I want to, get some extra contacts in the media world, although I know a lot of people of my own right in LA, I'll ring Rick and say, hey, Rick, I've got this fantastic idea for a show. I'm going to be the star. I need your contacts. And I'm going to go pitch him the idea. try and get him drunk so he thinks it's a good idea, and then hope that he'll introduce me to people that he knows, right?
Yeah,
That's
I
kind
don't
of
have
how the
any
world.
juice. I haven't sold the show in 25 years, so.
Yeah, but I'm a better salesman.
You might have
I'm
some
a
juice.
better salesman than you, Rick. So perhaps you'll open some doors. But I mean, that's kind of the way the world works. And if Jacoby comes to me and says, Shaquille, I want to set up a hedge fund, specializing in in the things that Jacoby knows about, then yeah, okay, I can open up some doors. Does that make any of us kingmakers? No, I think it's just that we live our lives, we network, we know people from our own industries, and we can potentially make introductions that will help people. And I can tell you that the vast majority of the time that I've introduced, person A to person B, there's been nothing in it for me. It's been, hey, Jacoby, you've got this great idea, and I don't know anything about what you're trying to do. It's not my industry, but I know this other guy, John Smith, and I think that you and John Smith might get along pretty well. Let me give you his phone number, or let me introduce you to him, and then those guys do business together. I don't consider that to be a kingmaker. I think the same sort of thing happens in politics. There are a lot more vested interests in politics, obviously, and that happens in every country. But I think it's mostly that people have networks of people that they get to know over their life.
That's not a kingmaker. That's just your normal networking. A kingmaker is bringing on this whole swath of people to basically I control. So, for example, take your hedge fund position that you're talking about. That analogy that you had made. So, for example, if I came to you and you had, we'll say, 30 of the top hedge funds across the globe behind you, right? You had 30 of the top hedge funds behind you. Rather than, hey, you're just going to introduce me to Jim Bob, who Jim Bob has his own hedge fund, and now Jim Bob and I do that's networking. But if you had 30 of the top hedge funds across the globe, right? Yeah, 30 of the top hedge funds across the globe, and they would only work with me if you said it was okay to work with me, right? And I'm networking, working with Jim Bob, working with Sally Jane, working with this. But then I go to you and I'm like, okay, well, I want to make it big. And I want to be the biggest hedge fund in the world. I want to be the biggest hedge fund manager. So who would I need to see to make it to that biggest hedge fund? Because I can't make it unless I get your approval. And if I come to you
just to put it back in parallel, hold on a second. That's the kind of power that I feel that Livonia had, whether you were running for Durham mayor, because that's a major public PAC and everything.
Are we off track a little bit? Shouldn't we?
We are. We're off track. Can I come back to the kingmaker thing, and just to use Jacoby's analogy there? I think the difference, Jacoby, is right now, if I wanted to raise 10 billion for my own hedge funds, right? I'm not in the industry anymore. I don't currently have a hedge fund, but if I wanted to start a hedge fund today and I wanted to raise 10 billion, I think it would be an uphill battle for me. I think I would struggle because they know what my results are. They know how much money I've been able to manage effectively, and they know what my limits are. Now, if I wanted to raise, 3 or 4 billion, yeah, I probably could. But 10, I don't think I would very easily be able to do that. However, if you had an incredible idea that I was really impressed with, I might be able to raise 10 billion for you, even though I couldn't raise the 10 billion for me. I don't know if that makes sense, but because if I sit there and say, hey, to a heap of hedge fund people that I know wouldn't put much money with me, and I said to them, hey, you need to talk to Jacoby because Jacoby's got this incredible idea and I think you'd be really interested. They may well be prepared to put 10 billion behind you, but not behind me. And that's kind of the way the world works. So those people that make those introductions, sometimes, if I was to do that, obviously I'd want something out of it. Yeah. But those people, that's why they do it. So I think politics is much the same. It's, look, I personally, with all the contacts I've got, I couldn't elect myself. I couldn't get all my contacts to back me. But John Smith over there, I think that John Smith's the right person to be the next governor, to be the next congressperson, to be the next senator. Let me get support for that person. Is that a kingmaker or is that just networking? I think it's networking.
Well, that's a hold on a second. That's a whole lot of semantics that we can get into that
Yeah.
conversation. But I was going to just bring us back to one other international issue where it plays into entertainment as well, and we can close out with this one because apparently, there are musicians, whether it's been rap or whether it's been other styles of music that are involved in the drug game. So apparently, authorities in Mexico, speaking about protection and everything, are offering state protection to a famed regional Mexican singer, Nataliano Cano, and other artists after a drug cartel in northern Mexico publicly threatened them. So I guess the state is trying to step in and protect these folks because the music that they perform is literally tied to drugs and everything. And I know that
if you want to take the money out of it and the crime out of it, and the violence out of it, be the libertarian that I am, the liberal that I am, just make it legal. Regulate it, tax it, make it legal. It would solve so many problems, in my personal opinion.
That makes a lot of sense. But what do we think about the fact that Mexico, this country that's down there, is going to actually offer state protection and not just have their bodyguards? Because we know a lot of singers, including singers that are doing controversial music, including the gangster rappers and everything, have their own bodyguards. But I guess Mexico is like, no, we don't want this on our watch. And we know that there've been a lot of.
I'm not sure if you saw the message. Steve Rowett's back, and I think he wants to finish up the show.
Yeah, that's cool. So I'll let Steve come back and everything along those lines. So let me see if I can bring Steve back, unless Jacoby's got some thoughts while I'm bringing Steve back and everything. Yeah, cool. There we go.
Hey, everybody. How are you? I just wanted to finish up today. Sorry for that. I had to take a call. But I just want to thank everyone for being on. Just some final insights as we close out the show. I think there was a lot of great points brought up today. I think as we look at Trump 2.0, we have to look at the tariffs, whether it's being used as a threat for a negotiation with other countries. I think the impact on the economy will be interesting. I do think I went back and listened to his interview with Christine Welker before I went on WPTF last week. He did say that he is reconsidering the Dreamers and DACA, which I found interesting, that he wants a bipartisan legislation because he does think he's been there for a while. They've been here for a while. Affordable Care Act, he wants to he wants to consider not repealing it, but he says he wants to put something on the table that's better. And of course, deportation, he will stick to that plan, but he says that separation of families, he would rather have them go back to their native countries than be here, but he will be moving forward with the deportation. And then from a foreign policy perspective, I think he may have some opportunities with Ukraine. We'll see China, the Middle East. But Trump 2.0 will be here before we know it. And I think we have to be ready for the drama and the theater, the political theater. And I think that it will be interesting to see. Jacoby, I know where you stand on this, but he is the 47th president. He won the electoral vote. He won the popular vote. I say that.
How do you feel that the markets are a little bit shaky? I read a report earlier today that the head regulator of the Fed has resigned because he doesn't feel like he can work with Donald Trump. How do you feel about that? And I am actually quite concerned about the markets, not the economy, the markets. Regardless actually of who won the election, I'm concerned about it. Now, hopefully Donald Trump will be able to navigate the conditions in such a way that the markets will be okay. But there's a lot of things that are outside of the control of the president that potentially that are potentially risky for the US. What are your thoughts and feelings on the markets and the general economic condition of the US?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's interesting. I mean, initially the markets rebounded when Trump won, and now they're coming down. People might be afraid of, what's going to happen with the tariffs. So, Shaquille, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I think that
on the market.
Go ahead. I've got to leave because I got to get an 11 o'clock call. But why don't we pick that up tomorrow, Shaquille? I'm going to do some research on that, and we will be honoring Jimmy Carter tomorrow, President Carter.
We honored Jimmy Carter yesterday on World Politics as well because we had a guest as Sasha that was speaking on the Carter legacy.
I'll be doing a
I'm going to be a little bit spotty, Steve. So if I'm not here tomorrow, I apologize, but I'll certainly be here this week. Right. I'm still traveling and I'm all over the place.
Thank Jimmy Carter. And Sasha Starr, it's great to see you. Made some great points today. I got to run. I got to make money to keep that economy moving and keep in the game of politics, doing the old, what I call Potomac two-step. Thank you all very much.
David, do you want to say something to wrap up the show?
Yeah.
Just to point out, when we were talking about the markets did go up and down while Trump was in office. But again, we remember the good and never really talked about the tumultuous time that 2016 to 2020 we had. But that's why I say the favorability bump will happen.
To be fair to me, Jatovi, I've been very open about this, right? I made more money during COVID and during President Trump's presidency, even prior to COVID, than at any other time during my life. Those 4 years, I made more money. Now, that was not just because of Donald Trump, it was also because of circumstance. It was also because I got new backers and I had institutional backers out of Switzerland, etc. But it was a very pleasant time and a time that I'll very fondly remember. So yeah, I might have some biases. Maybe that's me. Maybe that's a flaw. But I do look forward to the volatility. I do look forward to the way the markets will act under the next 4 years under his presidency.
So again, we remember the fondness because those rich individuals made money. Those
I'm not rich. I'm right,
control the media. So when they complain about the stock market, oh, well, it was so great. Well, Sasha, you can even back me up on it, or I can even bring up the graph between 2016 to 2020.
I'm right, buddy. I was gonna.
And now we're having a shaky stock market, which is still kind of rebounding still from COVID, and it's trying to steady. But then, of course, now we got this. Now we got Trump coming in. Hey, we're going to be back to the tumultuous time.
Well, firstly, tumultuous times, the volatility of the market helps me immensely. I'm broke. I was going to hit you up for a loan. I was wondering if you had a spare $100 million. You could lend me just to get me back on my feet, for now. But I will say, I actually think that a lot of the turmoil and a lot of the people that complain about not being able to buy houses, not being able to get access to credit, not being able to earn enough to survive and things like that, I actually think that a lot of that is the overhang from the 2007-8 Great Recession. I really do. And one of the things that the US did, supposedly temporarily, was to say, look, these banks are too big to fail, so what we should do is we should make them bigger and we should allow commercial banks and investment banks to merge. Now, I'm not going to criticize them too harshly for that. I think that may have been a reasonable thing to do at the time, temporarily, but maybe now, almost 20 years later, maybe now the United States could consider breaking up those banks and introducing more competition into those markets, because I don't think that any corporation should be too big to fail, which means that they can take unlimited risk and expect the taxpayer to pay for it. And I think that the everyday person that lives in the United States and around the world ends up having to pay for the largesse and the bad decisions made by those big companies.
Just really quickly, because we got to wrap up and everything, and along those lines, at 1:00, we do have Modern Investment with Sasha Starr, and I know he'll have Milan and possibly Jim Eade on that show and everything along those lines. So we'll give it a wrap up, and
I'll send you a message, Sasha, because my email is not working properly because I didn't pay the Google bill while I was overseas. So I'll send you the message to my new email.
If you could, on Modern Investment today, talk about Tencent. Because Tencent has such a huge hand in a lot of the stuff that's going on across the market, especially in the gaming world. But it has a huge hand. And they, in the U.S., just declared Tencent a Chinese military company. That's going to affect the market big time. So if you could you talk about Tencent today?
Would you like to be on a show at 1:00? Shaquille, you too?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send you a message, yeah.
I'll try and watch, but I have carpool, so I won't be able to be attend. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge thing that I've been meaning to ask you about. I would love to.
Could we have potentially? Because you've got a lot more experience in the sort of crypto space and AI space. could we consider having a special edition at some point? Because I'd love to pick your brains in front of an audience about, crypto and some of the arbitrage opportunities. As you know, I enrolled myself in a course that I've almost finished just recently, and I see so many opportunities. I'd love to have your insight. Perhaps we could have a special edition in the coming week.
Oh, me or Sasha?
Yeah. No, you, Toby.
Oh, I mean, I sure. I mean, I'm not huge into crypto because crypto is really more so at this moment. Still, crypto is so. It truly is the Wild Wild West. Adding in the stock market and slot machines. That's what crypto is.
That's sort of part of my attraction to it. Those industrialists from yesteryear that ground the people under their heels. And I'm thinking, well, there could be an opportunity for me to be a digital industrialist and ground the people under my heels. And I'd love your insight.
Yeah, you can make a ton of money with crypto. You can also lose your livelihood quicker than you could playing the stock market. Because take, for instance, one of the most unregulated pieces of crypto is the fact that if you lose your password, you don't get it. It's gone. Any money that you have is gone. If somebody hacks your password and takes it from you, there's nothing you can do to get that money back. So there are so many things that need to be regulated in the crypto space, in the Web3 space, but it's not because it's fighting the idea of decentralization. So unregulation versus regulation. That's what it comes down to. And with the crypto space, I believe in some type of regulation because you've got to be able to protect or back whatever money that you lose. And if you're walking in there blind, you're losing everything walking out. I mean, people will tell you to go get this Trust Wallet. Trust Wallet's one of the crypto wallets that's out there. Again, if that gets hacked, if you actually get caught in one of these phishing scams that are out there, you lost your money. You're never getting it back.
Jatovi, today's game is not the crypto itself. It's ETFs which are invested in crypto. And there, you don't have any keys to remember. You don't worry about your money disappearing and so on. Okay, it's not 100% as effective as owning crypto itself because there are management fees, there are certain things, but they're so minuscule, you might as well ignore it. It's just a cost of doing business. That's what can proliferate. The future of the crypto is, so far, I don't see any indication that there is a demand for crypto, and the only demand versus just blatant speculation and so-called driving up the markets, but natural, because you remember when there is a natural demand for a product or service or so on, so that stock is going higher. I don't see that demand for crypto. I don't see anybody asking, oh, I'd love to get some cryptos. Where can I do it? Oh, Sasha, do you have some cryptos to sell? I don't see that at all. You cannot buy coffee with this crypto. So
Sasha, there's been a few things that I've seen just recently that have been very interesting. Now, firstly, during the election, you look at the Polymarket odds and Kachi odds compared to what the international bookmakers odds were. There were arbitrages there all day long. At the moment, I just recently, the last couple of days, I saw that there's a Tether crypto which is linked to gold, and I read through their thing, and it said, look, if you want to actually redeem your crypto for gold, you can do so. It's 25 basis points. There's a big price difference actually between that and the real gold price or the gold futures price. Now, is there a potential trading opportunity there? Well, I think there probably is. I say that because if you look at the London gold futures price versus New York London futures price, there's often a bit of a difference there, and there's trading opportunities around that. If it's deliverable, and they deliver it out of Switzerland, there is potentially an opportunity there. So I think it's an interesting environment because there is a lot of inefficiency within the markets. Now, obviously with FTX and what's happened with FTX, the market has become a little bit more fragmented. But the idea of tokenized stock trading, tokenized futures and options trading being available in the crypto market is very interesting because of the inefficiencies and the major price discrepancies that you see with what's published on their markets versus what's in the real markets. I think that there is potential arbitrage opportunities. Now, look, I'm not prepared to risk the world on seeing how that goes, but I'd certainly be prepared to put $100,000 or a couple $100,000 behind it to see, well, does this work? Can I make something out of this? And the returns that I've modeled so far seem to be very, very interesting and very, very impressive.
So
just really quickly, and Jovi, I know you got something you want to add really quickly. I'll let you do that, but just to let you know, Sasha and everything, and then Jacoby, you'll wrap it up quickly and everything along those lines. I do know people, and I've told you that before, that are very much involved in the crypto space. I'm not one of them, but I do have friends, and they literally are trading on a regular basis. They've even got some coworkers. They're very active, almost as active as you are on the stock market. So I can't say that there aren't people that aren't actively involved in that crypto space and are actually going after aggressively getting monetary gains, and they are investing on a regular basis. They're studying the market just like you study the market in the stocks and everything like that. So there are people that are involved in that space.
So Sasha, sadly, crypto is thriving off of the 5 seconds of fame, which is a youth movement. Basically, it's truthfully a get rich quick scheme. One of crypto, even though it says it's tied to gold, Shaq, a lot of it tells you that it is, but it's not really. Crypto is everything about the stock market, about feelings about particular things. That's what crypto is. Haktua was the biggest meme, was the biggest thing, but that is the prime example of what actual crypto coin is, because the Haktua girl, I forget her actual name, so I apologize about that, but she actually created a crypto coin. That crypto coin skyrocketed real fast, but then disappeared because it had no true value. No crypto coin has any value whatsoever unless you feel that it does. Many people invested heavily into that crypto coin as soon as it popped off, but then it dropped off. So millions of people lost their money and started cussing out the Haktua girl. You know who made out like a bandit? Yes, it was the Haktua girl. She never told you to invest in it, but she made a killing off of it because you invested in that.
Right, yeah, but to be fair, that's the stock market.
What crypto is that it's going to shoot up, and you have that 5 seconds of fame where you can make that little bit of money, but you better get ready to sell if that crypto loses its value in the minds of people.
Yeah, but to be fair to Toby, that's the stock market, right? People sit there and go, okay, XYZ company is looking really good right now. It's gone up. Okay, I'm going to buy it, and then it pushes it even higher. People sell out. I mean, this is trading. I think those of us that have more experience with that know how to navigate that risk perhaps a little better than people who are uninformed, don't know the markets, and just go, to hell with it, I'll put $1,000 in, I'll put 500 in.
Oh, right. I'm not arguing that hey, that those in the stock market might not do well. I'm not arguing that at all. I'm just saying that those in the stock market should recognize, if you're walking into that crypto space, expect the more volatile version of investing in the tech industry on steroids, because the tech industry is one of the toughest places to invest, from what I understand, from what I hear, and how volatile that tech industry is. It is so much more volatile in that crypto space because it's all on a whim. And that's what crypto is. And yes, you can make a killing. You can make a ton of money, but it's that 5 seconds of fame. Is that 5 seconds?
The reason that I became successful in the first place was because I leveraged my positions heavily. But before I do, I pay a lot of attention to risk. Risk management is the most important thing that I do. Risk management is potentially a little bit more difficult with crypto. That's why I won't just go out and buy crypto naked and just hold the position and hope for the best. I generally don't do that unless it's a small amount of money. So but I think that there are techniques that you can use to mitigate that risk. Anyway, suffice to say that I think this could be a very, very interesting conversation. Perhaps we could have a special edition of one of our shows and have a real chat about this.
I would just recommend buy more cigarettes because it's going to be very volatile. And please don't buy naked. wear some clothes.
And on that
I
note,
mean,
we get on
where's the first of all? Where's the fun in that, baby? And secondly, yes, it is a very good technique. You've actually opened up a way to make millions of dollars. Australia and New Zealand increase the taxes on cigarettes every year. So if you want to make a lot of money, you buy a wholesale amount, buy sort of $5 or $10 million worth of cigarettes right before the tax increase, and then you can sell them after the tax increase and actually get to make that money. So there's a money-making idea for you, Jatobi, that I know that you'll love.
To kill on that note, as we get ready to go out the door and everything, I've still got this half a bottle of Hillside Bourbon that's waiting for you to make that trip to the RTP and everything. So it's actually waiting here. It's a local bourbon company. So I'm waiting for you to make that trip so I can finish the bottle with you, Shaquille. So I'm waiting for you to make it over here so we can finish this bottle of Hillside Bourbon.
If there's a bottle of bourbon waiting for me in North Carolina, I'll be right over.
All right.
I'll bring Sasha as well. Sasha's got some gorgeous Ukrainian vodka that I have to say, Sasha, I still haven't had a bottle of vodka that was as nice as what you gave me when we met in Toronto.
It's about time. Shaquille, copy that link that I've just sent.
I have it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Very
So we'll
good
see we'll see everybody at 1 o'clock. But yeah, this is a bottle of Hillside Bourbon, and it is a local company. There's a couple of other bourbons and other liquors that I've got waiting for you as well. So whenever you make that RTP trip, there's a couple of local spirit companies that we'll have waiting for you.
Sounds good. All right, gentlemen.
Later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.